Well, hello. Welcome to Living in the Light. I'm Mary Amy, and today I'm excited that we have guest Michael Edley, and he is eventual medium, and he's going to explain what that is exactly, and spiritual visionary. And so, welcome, Michael.
Hello, Mary. How are you? Pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate that.
I'm so glad you're here. It's like, old friends. I mean, I remember that I met you, and you're probably going to have a better memory than me. I met you during one of my, if not the first psychic fair I ever did in New York City, or it was in the tri-state area, and it was a healing fair, and we were doing readings. Do you remember?
We were. Yes, yeah, it was in Manhattan. Was it one of the wellness festivals that we were doing, or the Awaken Fair, or something like that? I believe it was. And yeah, that was going back what? Back to 2013 or so, 2012, somewhere in that area, I think.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. And then I even did I went to another fair and I interviewed you because I was just saying, so I'm gonna be a host. I'm gonna be a
Yes.
spiritual host. And I interviewed you, and then something very unusual happened. You were giving a reading, and then something fell off a table and broke. It was like some kind of powerful energy came in during your our conversation.
Yeah, we've had several wild things happen, I think, during readings and during some of the gatherings we've been together at there. It's definitely been interesting.
Totally interesting. And so I'm sharing you with everyone out there because we are all kind of trying to gain more spiritual insight and realize our intuitive skills. And can you tell everyone? I know that you are a Hungarian Romani Gypsy heritage, and you have gifts of psychic abilities. So can you share with us your story and where it all began for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a pretty interesting upbringing. I've connected and have seen spirits since I was a young child. I believe the age of three, around three and a half, I started seeing that. But my background was pretty unique because half my family, my father's side, they were Hungarian gypsies, and then the other side was devout Catholic. So I got kind of a dividing line right down the middle of all aspects. So not only did my grandmother, read tea leaves, and she was very in tune to astrology, the stars, and just intuition and energies. The other aspect of my family was very big into the saints and angelic presence, archangels, Jesus, and channeling the Holy Spirit and allowing that to transcend through you. So I guess in a sense, I was very fortunate to get this diverse aspect, and no one shunned it or told me I was crazy. They might have thought that when I was talking to relatives that were no longer with us, that I had no idea, weren't present in the room, or different aspects of like psychic awareness that would happen during Christmas. My uncle would come down, and I would know the gifts that he was giving me before I got them. I was blamed many times for looking under the bed and looking at the Christmas gifts before they were wrapped, or different things like to that effect. But it was a very interesting, diverse upbringing in, I guess, not only spiritual aspects of life, but religious aspects, and kind of a blend of the two of those.
And the first time that you realized or you noticed something that was out of the ordinary, you were three. Can briefly tell us what that was like or what you remember?
Yeah, so the first property my parents had purchased, it was near old railroad tracks. If anyone's familiar with New Jersey and aspects of the Jersey Shore, it was Lawrence Harbor and old train tracks. And I guess throughout time, several people had died near those train tracks. Our house but right up against it. And we had an old cellar. And one day I was down our cellar and I started seeing spirit. And I started talking to a gentleman down our basement, and I was the only one seeing him and talking to him. But when I came up and told my parents about this encounter I had had, they turned white. They had no idea. And at this point, I was very young. I had to be under 5 years old. And they decided that they were going to sell that house because it may have been haunted, or they weren't sure. But I was seeing someone who had been killed on the train tracks several years prior to that. So it was interesting. And then they had decided to sell that property because we weren't sure what was going on. There were a number of occurrences that had happened with, you know, doors being slammed, windows being opened. So we don't know if there was residual energy, if there was some type of spiritual gathering that was occurring near that because people had died on the train tracks. And this was a culmination of that energy manifesting in that space. So I don't know all the details. I was so young, but I know my parents had moved us out of that property because there was so many bizarre occurrences happening. And they moved us to what they had called a virgin piece of land in Tom's River. And they actually had a piece of property that nothing was ever built on. The property was blessed before our house was built on it. I guess they wanted to start with a clean slate. So that was my first encounter with spirit that had freaked my family out enough that they decided to sell our property and move me a little farther south. Mhm.
And it sounds to me, I'm gathering that you didn't have any fear. It wasn't something like it scared you. It just seemed like a matter of fact, but to everyone around you, they were a little alarmed.
Yeah, I think so. For me, it was just another person I was talking to. It didn't freak me out. I didn't have any fear come over me. I didn't see anything as evil or demonic or anything to that aspect. I had just encountered, a soul that either had wandered onto that property or was stuck residually in that property. And I think it was just a soul looking to move on. And I had encountered him. And I think that's all that was. And I'm very fortunate that that was my first encounter because there was no fear in it. In a sense, I think that showed me that there is this other aspect to what we see. There is this other aspect that we can't see, and it opened my awareness to this new world.
This just reminded me of a memory I had that when I was at one of the fairs, I had been experiencing the spirits coming to me. I'd close my eyes to go to sleep, and then they'd come into my face and it would startle me. And I told you about this, and I didn't know what to do and it went on for 4 months. And so I wasn't really sleeping because I was taken back. I didn't want to go. And you said to me, make an appointment with them to come visit you or talk to you. And then I started doing that and saying, well, you can only come talk to me at this time. And then they just kind of disappeared, and they didn't go. Like they came a few times and then that was it. Do you remember that?
I do. I do remember that. And I remember, I think, explaining it's almost like a volume knob. And I think as intuitives and people that are very empathic and so many, what we'll call star seeds that are living among us, I think a lot of people are born into this existence and they don't quite understand it. And it could be very alarming. It could, if you don't know how to handle and deal with these energies or accessing the spirit realm, it can throw you off initially. So that's why I think it's so important that people like you, like myself, are out here talking about this, helping people understand it and learn it because it's such an important aspect to our existence. And when we can tap into this energy field and we can tap into that intuitive knowing and these psychic abilities that all humans possess, it just a whole new world unfolds for us, and it's an amazing, amazing experience.
I agree with you because that's exactly what my mission is. I'm supposed to be kind of sharing my insight and my experiences so that it's not considered so crazy or out of any possibility, and also share people like you who are been practicing this, and it's actually you know acclimating everyone else to an understanding that this is actually more natural for us to tune into our abilities. And since that time that you told me that, I now it's a regular occurrence. It's been a regular occurrence for years now, for many years, that I have spirits come in, and they initially it was more like a flash, but now because a lot of more of me has been activated, I'm experiencing more of them emotionally, what they're trying to say to me, gestures. It's more like it's almost like it's multidimensional when I see them. It's not just a flash. So I've definitely kind of accepted it, and I believe that that's a lot. That's a lot of this accepting. Can you give us some background in regard to your mediumship and how it's kind of transitioned, you know, your transformation to where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a young child, I experienced spirit on the level we were speaking about. I saw things that weren't necessarily here in the physical. I knew things. There was a knowing. But when I was roughly, I think, 8 years old, I had a near death experience. I was involved in gymnastics and was on the balance beam, had come off a land, and the platform had snapped, split my head open, and I started bleeding out. It was, we could go into this story for a while, but at that point in time, I was bleeding so bad they didn't know what was going to happen. They had to get me to the hospital in a certain period of time, which they did, fortunately. But in that period where I had become unconscious, I felt the presence of this loving energy that engulfed me and wrapped me. It was an angelic presence. It's the only way to describe it.
Mm.
And I felt safe and I knew I was going to be okay. And I woke up on the operating table and I was fine. So from what I had experienced prior to seeing spirit, knowing and having that intuition, and then this encounter with an angelic presence that I feel helps guide my safety and my health and my whole being, and navigated me through that injury and that near death experience. I knew there was something more, and I didn't completely acknowledge it, and I still wasn't sure how to completely handle it. But I'm very fortunate that my family didn't say I was crazy. My mom, she would embrace aspects and ask me about certain things. And then I'm sure there were other family members that were like, "Oh, we don't know what this kid's doing, and we're gonna just stay away from him right now." But aspects of my family embraced it, and my mom had embraced it, and she would ask me about it. So it kept that energy alive in a sense, and I always just knew. I always had a knowing. I had an understanding of things to come. Certain aspects of relationships, of why people would be a certain way. I would just have this knowing of what was unfolding behind the scenes, even if I didn't actually discuss it with somebody. And I turned from that for many years, and I was very unsure about it. And then it resurfaced when I had a close family member pass away and come to me in a dreamlike state
Mm.
and started giving me information as far as very pertinent information to the family, and different accounts and different financials and different things that could have been very disastrous and very it could have been a mess. And through that communication in a dreamlike state,
Mm.
I knew I had to tap back into this, and I started working with it again. And that was probably 15 years ago, and I just on a daily basis started embracing and learning, training with different people, using this energy to see how I could use it for a creative aspect. So not only that's the one thing that people need to understand is this psychic awareness, this intuition, these natural abilities, they can gain insight to so many other aspects of our being. Any kind of artistic talents, they can grow tremendously in this. Any type of music, any type of composition, painting, even design, building, architecture. I think when you have great work being done and great creative minds, just manifesting unbelievable pieces of art and music, we're tapping into this source energy, this source awareness. And when we allow that to flow through us, amazing things that can unfold that may not have unfolded in our life otherwise. And I think it's so important for people to understand that this just isn't one aspect of understanding and knowing. I mean, that's a part of it, but you can use this energy in all aspects. I mean, I've built businesses around this. My intuition had guided me in certain directions, and I followed that. And what I would find is when I would follow that intuitive knowing and that guidance, beautiful things would unfold in my life, and things would manifest that were of my highest good and the best for me and those around me. And when I wouldn't listen to that inner guidance, I would find myself backtracking or going, "Oh, I should have done that, or I should have listened to that." And I think we all find ourselves in those moments of time where we're like, I knew I had this inner knowing, this gut feeling. I should have turned left, but I turned right, or whatever it may be. And we end up backtracking and going, "Wow, I should have listened to that. There was something to that inner sense. There was something to that guidance, that internal sixth sense. And when we tap into that and we tune into that, that's when the true magic starts to happen. And that's when manifesting and really living our full potential can start to unfold. Without tuning into that spiritual aspect of our being, we're only tapping into half, I would say, half of what we can truly manifest. When we go 100% in and we look at all those aspects, it really is when the magic unfolds.
You just you gave us a really nice glimpse of how you see the world and how what you've had happen on your journey. You you spoke to me. We prior to this just now, we had a mini conversation about doing readings, and you said to me, "Well, I can give a reading. Do I have something? Do you have something of theirs? Are they going to be on here?" And I said no. And you said, "Well, let's maybe do some kind of little show or a show, and it's just you giving readings." So that's going to be coming up. We're going to do that together, aren't we?
Yes, yeah, we'll do a gallery
Nice.
presentation, and we can get a small group of us together.
Yeah.
And what happens when we're doing a reading, we're connecting on three energy levels. So my energy, the sitter's energy who will be receiving the reading, and then spirit.
Mm.
And we're taking that three connective energy levels and we're bringing them together. So I'm trying to raise my vibration, spirit is actually lowering their vibration.
Mhm.
It's we're connecting on almost a telepathic, I think that's the easiest way to explain it. It's
Mhm.
almost a telepathic level, and
Mhm.
it's occurring internally. And when we bring the three minds together, I mean, amazing things can happen. So we'll do a gallery, and hopefully we can bring through quite a bit of information. And yeah, absolutely. And it's a beautiful thing to see when people can start to understand that, what we're seeing in this physical is not all that there is. We're a spiritual being having this human existence. And I think many people speak about that, but not everyone fully wholeheartedly embraces it. And I think when we can do a gallery, that'll show people that, the continuity of life is so much more than what we can see. Our loved ones in spirit never leave us. And I think it's so important for people to understand that today. So many people have been losing loved ones. And,
Mhm.
I've seen a lot of anxiety around death. And I think when people can understand that this is not the end, this is only a piece of it, it
Mhm.
can eliminate a lot of that anxiety and a lot of that fear. And a lot of times, that can be closure that someone needs to understand their loved one is still around them, still guiding them, and still interacting with them. It's so important for people to understand that. And that's what we can show them in a mediumship gallery.
Perfect. You are you are able to connect to someone if you have something personal. Have you done about psychometry, which is where you have an object from the person, like maybe for a client, or have you worked with, they say, the police or someone trying to search someone who's missing? Have you ever had anything in
Yeah, so
um,
very interesting that you bring that up, because through some of the wellness fairs and the psychic fairs and things that we were doing in Manhattan, I had actually hooked up with district attorneys. I had hooked up with some private investigators, and I was brought in on a cold case. This was through the NYPD, and there was some clothing, some jewelry, some things, and yeah, and insight and guidance came from the clothing, from the jewelry, that actually helped lead them closer to solving that case. At that moment in time, it didn't solve it, but it opened up other parameters for the case for them to investigate, which eventually did lead to the cold case being solved. So that's one aspect of it. Yeah, through a piece of jewelry, through a piece of clothing, a picture, anything that would have the residual energy of the person. A lot of times that's all it takes to connect back to that energy and awaken, awaken that.
well, the fact that you can do that, that sounds very powerful. Do you encounter that on a daily basis? What kind of experiences do you have because you just come in contact with another being, another human, and then
Mm.
are you receiving their information like floods of information, like, oh God, it's got to stop right now? I mean, how do you handle that? I know you said the
It-
dial. We talk about the
yeah, it
what
is.
happens.
So it's that's a very interesting, that's a great question, because initially it can be a little overwhelming and dealing with different energies, and especially when you're doing readings in group settings or something, like a psychic fair where there's many different energies connecting and coming together. Yeah, it's almost like learning to ride a bike or practicing a sport, learning an instrument. Over time you practice it and you start to harness and understand the energy and how that energy can affect you. And there's different things you can do to protect your own energy field so you're not absorbing negative energy, or you're almost deflecting it and you're not allowing that to affect you. And in some sense it's very important for people to understand that, because there may be anxious energy, there may be some type of even anger, different things that we come in contact with, that if we're not familiar with these energies and how these energies can affect us, you can walk into a room and for some reason now you're aggravated or you're anxious, or you've absorbed some of that residual energy, and it has nothing to do with you internally. It's actually going into an energy field where that, rather than be deflected away from you, you've absorbed some aspect of that. And the more we study this, the more we learn it, the more we practice it, the more control we have over it. And that's the first step to not allowing it to affect you negatively. And vice versa, you can actually take a lot of positive and a lot of good. And, there's different events where the crowd is just so pumped up and everyone is just in such a good positive state of mind, where that'll lift everybody's vibration and it'll bring through some amazing readings that may not have otherwise come through, or helps allow the other realms to come into our realm, and us to connect and communicate. It's all about energy. So it's really important for us to understand that everything is energy. The more we can work and harness that energy, the more positive we can allow that to transcend through us, and then allow that to transcend through others.
Is there an otherworldly experience you would like to share with us that you've encountered?
um, let's see, otherworldly experience. I think anytime I'm dealing with the spirit realm, that's an otherworldly experience. When I can bring through information that I've had no access to. There's no way of me knowing that, names, dates, places, very particulars about a person, and I can share that with a loved one,
Mhm.
and they can know that their loved one is truly around them, truly guiding them. I think that each and every time is something very special, and that's something that not only does it uplift and help the sitter, but the positive energy, I feel that, and that helps. That definitely helps, just allow that positivity to transcend through my own heart. And that's a big thing. But I did have an outer body experience. I've had two of them, going through into deep meditations, and I was young when that happened. I haven't looked into that aspect of things for quite some time, but going back, early 20s, I did have two outer body experiences that were unbelievable and that were very life changing. And that's just another thing of knowing that there's a spiritual being inside this human fleshy spacesuit, and it has access to so much more and can be so much more and do so much more. So I think that would be one of the wildest experiences I've had, would be the my initial outer body experience I had.
Um, do you have any kind of wild or unusual dreams? I mean, when I say this, I'm tempering it with that to you, what's normal is maybe not the norm for other people. But
Mm.
what is your dreams like when you're sleeping? What's involved with them?
So I've always been a very vivid dreamer. I've
Mhm.
always had a lot of color, a lot of detail. Most times I wake up and I do remember many aspects to my dream. A lot of times I will journal it, or I'll record it real quick if it's something I think I'll forget. And I think that's really important for everyone to journal, or have something they can record the information right when they wake up so they don't forget what had occurred in their dreamlike state. I think that can access many other realities for us. I think creativity can come through in dreams. I know I found a lot of times when I was working on a piece of music, composing a song, many ideas would come through in dreams. And if I could remember it or I could capture what I heard in the dream and I could recreate that
Mhm.
once I woke, I mean, some magic would happen there. But I also think when the ego shuts down and our mind is in that sleeping state, when we're in that dreamlike state, I believe that's one of the easiest times for spirit to connect to us. So a lot of times I'll have someone say, my father came to me in a dream who had passed, or my brother, or some significant other, or something very significant in the dream. And I tell people, don't discredit that and don't disregard that, because that is sometimes the initial encounter that spirit can, come into our awareness in a dreamlike state and let us know they're with us or give us a message. I've had some incredible information come through in dreamlike states that have changed significant relationships, that have had positive impact on business agreements, just many different aspects of life. So that's the one thing I could tell people in general is don't disregard and discredit information that comes through in a dream. It can be very important and very pivotal in your overall well-being.
We're going to get on to what kind of services you offer, but I can see right behind you. Can you tell us about sound healing and
Oh,
what's that behind you and what does
I
that mean? Sound
I
healing
do.
for you.
So the interesting thing is there is a small. It's a gong. It's mounted,
Right.
but I'm very big into sound healing. It's something that I've I've found myself consumed by
Mhm.
understanding sound and frequency and how ancient cultures were so tapped into this. And for some reason, whether this was the powers that be trying to control and manipulate and whatever else may go along with that, and I don't want to get into the aspects of conspiracy theory and all these different things, but
Truth
just
seeker,
alone of
truth
changing
seeker.
standard
I'm a
frequency
truth.
from 440 to 432, through the early
We can get into
war
it
times.
anytime.
We can, but the interesting thing is the Buddhist monks had known this. Ancient ancient religious practitioners who would have the brass bowls and the quartz bowls and just flutes and sound and frequency, harmony. If people understood how integral this is to our well-being, I think people would have a completely different aspect of understanding music and sound. Sound can heal. Certain frequencies can cause cancer cells to implode. I mean, there's just amazing studies that are being done with sound, and we can have tremendous health benefits from that sound. So, what I've tried to incorporate in some of my own meditation music, which hopefully over the next several weeks, I'll be able to send you a finished copy of that, and you can
Yay.
enjoy it and let me know what you think. But I've started researching binaural frequencies, hemisync of the right and left hemispheres of the brain, and just how sound can allow our mind to transcend just the monkey mind, what they call. I think the Buddhist monks would always refer it to the monkey mind, the chatter that's always going on, our to-do lists, our what we feel are our daily priorities that we have to get done. Sound can allow us to push that noise aside and allow our mind to transcend into this beautiful space that so much positivity, well-being, and health can come from that space. It's so important that people understand that sound is a true aspect of healing that we can all utilize.
Can you hit that gong for us?
It's mounted. It won't make any sound because
Oh, okay.
it's mounted
It's
right
like,
now. I don't
don't you
have
want to just hit it? I just want to hit that gong.
the center.
I
It's
think like, you know what it looks like? It's standing alone, but it's connected to is it on the wall?
no, it's actually mounted on it's an old root that came from India. So yeah,
Wow.
it was actually one of their they bless certain trees at certain periods of time and they don't harvest them till they fall. This was one of their sacred I forget the exact tree that it was, one of their sacred trees that fell And what they do is they pray over it, they make carvings out of it, and they take the root structure, and they feel that that was very grounded into Mother Earth. So in a
Wow.
lot of the Indian culture, a lot of it is, understanding the energy, understanding the connection between our body and Mother Earth, and having that's space a grounding root that the gong sits on, and it just has great energy, and it's just been a cool decorative piece that I've had for a long time, probably 30 years or so.
It must have powerful energy.
It is, and that's why I keep the gong on it, and that's some stuff that I've incorporated into my sound healing. Like, you'll hear some crystal. I had a great friend of mine who's a phenomenal crystal bowl player, so we've incorporated some of the quartz crystal bowls. There's some gongs. There's some non-traditional, Western and non-traditional Eastern instruments and flutes and woodwinds. So there's some real cool stuff in there. But the whole thing was to have a shift in consciousness and a shift in awareness when you're listening to it,
Mm.
and allow your body to unify and ground and have this energy foundation that will allow the spiritual self to flow. It'll allow the chakras to open. It'll allow insight and guidance. It'll allow deep mental clarity, I think, when you listen to this. So I'm really excited to share it with everyone, and I'm hoping that everything will be finished up over the next several weeks, and you'll definitely get one of the first copies.
Thank you. That's exactly where I'm headed right now, or I'm in. Everything kind of a lot of this conversation really resonates with me because I'm very parallel and very much validating everything you've said today to us. You've had a spiritual center, and exactly what is that? And what kind of services did you offer, or do you offer?
Yeah, so I've been involved for the last 22 years. I've been involved in brick and mortar, and I was actually involved in the pet industry and had licensed rescue and shelters that I've done, and holistic based business. And from that, in the one building I had owned, it was a commercial space. There was an extra floor that during Superstorm Sandy, we actually converted that into a meditation space. We had generators, so we were able to get some power. We were able to let some of the local people come in and get some water, charge their phones, and we were offering, free dog food and different things to some of our, our local customers, and that spread out. What we had found was we started just doing like a yoga, in the morning, and people could bring their animals, and it was a gathering where everyone could just connect when everyone was so disconnected through Superstorm Sandy. This whole area was pretty ravaged, and I had two brick and mortar locations at the time. One, the roof had fallen in, no power, and we went weeks, and it was kind of crazy. We were very fortunate. The other location, we were able to keep running on generator power, so we were bringing animals in, we were holding people's fish, holding people's lizards. It was just crazy. But having my spiritual background and, my, I guess, aspects of knowing that the sound healing and the meditation can help animals, we started opening this up to people. And basically a whole second floor of my building started turning into a center for, we would have Reiki practitioners come in, we would have massage therapy, we would just do meditations. We had a crystal bowl healer come in, and she was phenomenal. We would lead people in these different meditations with the crystal bowls, and there was many different aspects of healing that we would start to see, and we just had this camaraderie and everyone coming together. And we just said, you know what, through Superstorm Sandy, as everything started, power was coming back on, we're like, you know what, we should just keep doing this. And that's where the New Jersey Spiritual started up, and I started bringing in other people like myself, other mediums, other psychics. We started bringing, sound healers, and just a number of different things. We started offering different classes, workshops, and everyone embraced it. And it was a great thing. And I had done that, for many years. But what I found is through the pandemic, major shift.
Mhm.
And what I was finding is who I was and how I was and everything that was me up to that point just didn't feel like it anymore. It didn't feel like that was me and that was the path I was supposed to be on. And that's why I think it's so important for us to tap into the intuition and, our empathic abilities and have this guidance. And what I say is my collective and the Holy Spirit, and I allow, this energy to transcend and help guide me. And I just knew my path needed to change and it needed to shift. And I needed to focus more on this aspect of my life, the spiritual aspect of it. And that was where I was going to have, the most growth. That's where I was going to really truly find myself and what I needed. And I decided to sell everything, close up, have a complete shift, a complete 180. So I sold my, commercial property, sold my businesses. And I said, you know what? I'm going to follow through on this spiritual aspect of my life till I really understand it. And I'm gonna see where it takes me. And that's been the journey for the last 2 years. It's led me to write music that I never thought I would write and release. That's about to be released. New opportunities have unfolded that I never would have had and never would have been able to take advantage of should I have stayed on the old path I was on. So that's one thing people need to understand is no matter how scary or how uncertain, sometimes you have to let spirit guide you. And though you may not know why you're being led in a certain direction, our true calling and our true meaning and everything that's really buried deep inside that we don't always allow to completely unfold, when spirit guides us, spirit is guiding us into that unfolding. And it's the most magical, beautiful thing any person can allow happen in their life. And I truly believe that.
Okay, question. Can you sense any spirit around me? Or actually, that's it. I'll throw that. I won't define it any other way.
So the interesting thing is initially when we just started talking before we even started recording,
Yeah.
yeah, there was actually two energies I felt. I definitely felt two female energies around you.
Mhm.
The one is there's definitely a younger unifying energy, and I definitely see the name A. I see the letter A around that person,
Mhm.
and I see that person. When they had passed, they would have been a little bit younger. So I feel like they would have been probably probably 40s, early 40s. But I also sensed tied into that energy and that female energy, I definitely sensed an older female energy around you. And
Mhm.
I feel like this would have been a smaller lady, and she definitely would have been crafty or creative. And yeah, and definitely felt these two female energies around you. One was an older energy when they had passed, and one would have been a younger.
Okay. Well, I'm going to sit with that because it's personal. And okay, good. That's interesting. Because I don't want to kind of put you on the spot like that, and then it just kind
Yeah,
of came through to me. Because I'm going more with what I'm just being directed to kind of ask certain things. And another thing that I don't know if it's my curiosity, but you mentioned very early in this conversation about tea leaves and your grandmother. Did you am I correct? It was your grandmother or someone in your
yes, yeah,
family?
my Hungarian grandmother. Yeah,
And did you know her?
I did. I knew her. She had passed when I was pretty young. I was, I think, 15 when she had passed, but I spent quite a good period of time with her prior to that.
Mhm.
And there's things that sit with me that were very, very interesting with her. So I would, on that end of things, she would read tea leaves or she would kid around. If they had a newspaper sitting at her house and we were there for the holidays, and she'd point to the astrological section and be like, "This is the most accurate thing in this paper. All the other stuff is nonsense. It's different, so she would just have funny comical
Right.
aspect. Yeah, and thinking about it now, I'm
Propaganda.
like, wow, maybe that was the most accurate aspect of it. Yeah, and just having that lineage. She would also read palms, and she was very prophetic. I wasn't able to read a lot of the stuff she wrote, and I never saw her diaries, but I know from family members, I've heard that after she passed, she had very prophetic writings that she had of things that were to happen in the family that did play out and did occur several years after her passing. So, and unfortunately, I, didn't have access to all that writing, but I know and I heard of it. So, in addition to what I saw personally with tea leaves and just her kidding around and joking about that aspect of things, I know she was very prophetic in her writing and information that would come to her. But then the interesting thing is on the other side with my other grandmother, she really instilled early on that, there's a realm of saints, a realm of angels. There's just this divine heavenly body that's also here to work with us and guide us and help us.
Mm.
So I had an interesting mix of traditional and non-traditional, I guess, spirituality and religion all blended together. And I think, I feel very, I should say I was very lucky to have both aspects of that, because I think it gave me a definite an interesting perspective on my mediumship. And it's interesting because what I've been doing even of late here, I've been studying um, different aspects of Christianity and looking at how certain Christianity, going back to the early writings and teachings of Jesus, how it was very prophetic, and early religion so much different than what it is today and what it originally was and what it was supposed to be and how it was controlled and manipulated. But when you really look back into like ancient scripture, ancient religious writings, you truly see that all religions all go back to what I'll call my, being Catholic, God, and this loving source energy that transcends all. That is this omnificent power that is connected to all of us, this divine guidance. And all ancient religions, cultures, everything goes back to this. And when we could start to unfold that and start to see different aspects of ancient cultures and how they've used this guidance and how it was almost taken away and it was almost hidden and a lot of this information, and now you're starting to see this unfolding again. I truly believe we are in a time of awakening. We are in an unfolding of the truth being handed back to us, and that's why I think it's so important for people to, even if people are very apprehensive and aren't completely open to all aspects of, spirituality and religion, I just tell people, just keep your mind open, even the smallest degree, because it only takes one small occurrence or one small miracle or one small aspect of the supernatural occurring into your life that you see a whole world exists that everyone is not aware of. And it's just so important for that awakening to keep growing and for people to keep embracing that.
Absolutely. Is there a message you would like to share with the viewers, something that you want to tell us before we go today?
Well, so being a medium, I guess the best thing I could do right now, I think, just maybe give a little guidance on what I see unfolding through 23.
Perfect.
That might be good. I
Yeah.
just I think 23, I think throughout this year, I think we're going to see a lot of uncertainty in many markets. The financial markets, I think just society in general. I think we are seeing a major shift. And what I tell people is be smart about this shift. You don't want to go into extenuating debt. You really want to be as stable and be on as stable a foundation as you can. Don't over leverage yourself, because there's going to be lots of opportunities. I think in all this uncertainty, we are seeing a new shift that is going to occur. And it's in these shifts that some of the most magnificent stuff can happen. New businesses built in the chaos of what may happen of others falling. So I just think everyone needs to take a step back at this point in time. Don't make any rash decisions. Take your time if you have any major life transitions unfolding, and really just, I think that's the biggest thing, is take your time with any new thing that may be unfolding. So anything that may be unfolding, interpersonal relationships. So whether that may be new relationships you're going into, new shifting, new shifting jobs, anything that may maybe a major aspect that's changing in your life, just take a step back from that, look at all aspects, and look at not only how it's unfolding now, but 6 months from now, a year from now. Try to sit with that, try to meditate on that, try to see what your life will look like if you are making the decision that you plan on making. We have free will. That's the beauty of this. Anything I see in a psychic reading, if I'm doing something psychically, it's basically if someone is going to do the exact same thing they're doing now, making the same choices, whether that be with their health, with their business, with their finances, with their family, with their relationships. If you're making the same decisions, then it's going to lead you down that path. But we all have free will to change. And that's why I say this is going to be a big time of uncertainty. I think we're going to see destabilizing in many aspects of our society that we haven't seen. In some people, it's going to be the first time in their lifetime that they've seen, I think, this uncertainty and some destabilization going on. But I say, rather than get caught up in fear, rather than get caught up in anxiety of any kind of change, look at the opportunities, because we're going into an energy cycle where the people that can truly stay grounded and focus and not allow any type of discombobulated energy, I guess we'll call it, so, and there's a whole spectrum of things that we can put together in that, from anxiety, pain, fear, just the tip of the iceberg on that. But if we can balance that, and we can take a step back, and we can look at the opportunities that may come from a societal uncertainty, I think many people can do really well. And it's a process of working with the energy so you're not getting consumed by what's going on around you, and you can stay the course, persevere, and find that positivity in certain aspects of the chaos. So I think it's very big for people to not jump to conclusions, not jump into any kind of situation that could temporarily destabilize them. So, like, if someone's gonna just give you an example, if someone were to ask me right now, should I take my whole life savings, everything I've done, quit my job and start up this business? I would have to say, just be apprehensive with that right now. Not that that's a bad idea, but I think we have to look at all aspects of what are going to unfold and what the uncertainties are. So that's why I say just move slow. So that would be my recommendation to anybody listening to us right now: is cover all aspects of the decision you're going to look at. Truly meditate on it, and truly tap into your intuition, and see where the intuition is calling you to go. And if that all aligns, then I think you're going to find, many beautiful things can come from this. But I think we have to pause temporarily, really look at the big picture, and approach things slowly, because there's so much uncertainty right now. And I think this is the most uncertainty that as a society we've seen in many, many decades. And I think this has been from the first time seeing like the pandemic in 2020. And I think in a lot of our lifetimes, this is the first time we've really felt just this omnificent like fear and anxiety take over all of society. And it's weird how it'll consume some people, and some people can just navigate it and make the best things happen. So that's what I challenge everyone: is be that person that can understand this energy, can work with this energy, and try to navigate it to their advantage. So that's I think where we where we are right now.
Great, thank you. So how can you be reached, and what services are you offering right now?
Okay, so service. So I can be reached on Facebook, Eye of the Spirits with Michael Edley. If anyone wants to follow my Facebook page,
Okay.
I post daily there. You can go to my website, michaeledley.com. You can message me there, and we can set up an appointment. I do half hour private readings. I do group readings. So right now, I think probably about 2 months out. So if anyone wants to schedule, reach out now, and we can definitely try to get an appointment scheduled. And I'm trying to do a lot of local events. We have a nice sold out event next weekend where I'll be working with a Reiki practitioner, and we have a whole day event where we'll be working with people's energy and giving readings and trying to give people that fundamental energetic balance that I think a lot of people need. So yeah, so I'm around. I'll be posting a lot of my events on my Facebook page. So if there's something coming up, it'll go on there. But yeah, I'm available for private and group readings. So
That's
someone could reach out to me on Facebook. They can reach out to me on my website. And that's probably the easiest way.
perfect. And you will join me. And then I will announce it during one of my lives, and I'll make a little, like I do, like a little post about it. And we will have some kind of group that we can, maybe we'll do it all live. We'll do it live, and we'll have a group of us, and maybe it's kind of like a, not like a, like internet seance or an internet reading or whatever you want to call it, right? Some kind of group, uh, I guess, informational maybe, and you can tell us what you sense, and you can tell me how many people we would need for that. So this has been so wonderful, and I'm going to put Michael's information in the post, and I'm so grateful. So blessings to you, Michael.
Oh, thank you.
And
Thank you.
thank you so much for joining us on a Saturday. I know it's a day that we all like to rest. And so I hope everyone likes this, whether or not they get a chance to see it today when it premieres or on a replay. Everyone have a wonderful day. Bye.
Thank you.